What is up, Erik? Welcome to the Marketing Millennials podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I want to give everybody a quick background. Could you go into what is Hawke Media? I know you're the founder and CEO, so they know where you're coming from.
Yeah, background's e-commerce, built and sold a couple e-commerce brands, and then almost 12 years ago started advising and consulting for a bunch of large and small brands on how to drive growth using marketing, and just found that the marketing ecosystem's broken. Like, there's no barrier to entry to say you're a marketer. I get hit up all the time by 17-year-olds telling me they started an agency and are now selling people on marketing, but don't know what they're doing. So how do I do marketing? And so that is a very broad problem in the industry where every head of marketing, every founder I know has had a problem dealing with bad marketing agencies. And I thought that was ridiculous. So decided to hire my own little SWAT team to sort of solve it right in front of me. And the idea was to be the best at what we did in marketing, but easy to work with, nimble, cost effective, flexible, et cetera. And fast forward, we now have about 250 full-time people. We've worked with almost 6,000 brands at this point. I've had a ton of success. And then on top of that, we have a venture fund where we've invested in over 100 pieces of marketing technology and e-commerce tech that basically power the industry. And then we also have an AI tool that's digesting about 6,000 companies, marketing, media, and revenue data in real time. And then we're able to train our team against it, look at what an individual company is doing, and basically create predictive analytics / automated marketing strategy around it.
So we safe to say you're doing just a little bit of things at
Yeah,
Hawke
just a few
Media.
things.
Yeah, just a few things.
A lot of naps, a lot of sitting around,
Yeah, exactly. So you've worked with over 5,000 brands. Like, when you zoom out, what is the one thing the winners do differently?
I mean, at the end of the day, and this is sadly not that helpful, but great product always wins. Like, if you build something that people really love, service or product, like, that's going to be where you win. Marketing is easy when that's the case. Growth is easy. Revenue growth forgives a lot of sins. Virality forgives a lot of sins. And I don't mean virality like having a good video. I mean, people are talking about your product because it's so great, telling other people to get your product. So there's a lot to be said about just creating something great from a product standpoint. And that's the quick answer on that's where we see people win. There's obviously a lot of tactics as well.
So having a good product, what is the next stage if you dug deeper of all the people who are winning that has a good product?
Yep.
What are they doing differently than the others?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One is articulating that differentiator and value proposition really specifically and succinctly. So we always talk about the sort of 5 to 7 words, your positioning statement, however you want to put it, that allows people to go repeat it. And what I mean by that is people talk about an elevator pitch, 30 seconds in an elevator. I'm going to tell you about my company, but you don't have 30 seconds when it comes to word of mouth. You have 2 seconds. And so if I have time to pitch my business, I can take 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and probably sell someone. What I need is for other people to go talk about me. They need to feel comfortable selling it. So you need to give people something really concise to say that creates intrigue and people wanting to check it out. For Hawke, it was, we're your outsourced CMO and marketing team. Because then when people went and talked about Hawke Media, they'd go, oh yeah, they're your outsourced CMO and marketing team. It was easy to regurgitate, easy to say. I even heard people say they're like your outsourced CMO, or they're your fractional CMO, or they're your CMO in a box. But it was always a play on something that we frankly seeded for them to say, so that it was very comfortable for them to talk about us. Because the first time someone tries to pitch your company to someone else and they don't do a good job and the person looks at them sideways is the last time they talk to someone about your company. So you got to make that easy. So that's number 2. Number 3, probably the biggest thing I see people miss from just a marketing standpoint is the purchase cycle or consideration period. We're in a day now where everybody has spreadsheets that they're managing marketing on, and they're looking at how much did I spend today on Facebook and how much did I make? And what's funny is intuitively, almost everybody understands this, but then rationally, they don't put it into practice, which is from the time someone sees an ad to the time they buy, there's usually a time period. And from our data, it's anywhere between 3 weeks and 3 months. So let's just say the average is around a month. The idea that you're going to look at a spend today and then look at the ROI today is frankly one of the dumbest things you could do in trying to measure your marketing, because it takes time. It takes time for people to decide to purchase, to build that trust that they actually convert. And so what I see people miss is not only just that fact. So when they're ramping up spends, again, one of the ways I can really identify someone that's not very good at marketing is they tell me that when you ramp spend, what's the line? They always say something along the lines of like, your ROAS goes down as you ramp spend, and then it has to catch back up. But they don't know why. It's just like, oh yeah, when you spend more, your returns go down. It's like, no, it's just the timeline hasn't caught up yet. So if you spend the same amount of money every day, you're seeing the returns from a month from now, but after a month it catches up and you start seeing the normalized returns. So if you spend more today, like if I spend $100,000 yesterday and zero today, you still are probably going to have some sales today because the people that saw the ad yesterday. So the idea that now your ROAS is infinite because you didn't spend any money today is the dumbest way to look at it. But frankly, the majority of marketers do look at it this way. And it goes in the inverse. If I spend zero yesterday, or let's say I spend $10 yesterday, and so one customer comes in today that trickled in from yesterday, but then I spent 100 grand today. No, I didn't spend 100 grand to get a customer. It's going to take another, again, month to even see the half-life of that spend. So understanding how to measure that is super important. And then knowing that, all the things that you need to do during that month to help increase conversion, to help lower that time frame, things like email marketing, SMS, great content, et cetera, that get people along faster and more frequently.
I also think like what you said at the beginning, that the 5 to 7 statement that you need to make, the positioning statement, I think people go into the tactic first and then they forget that part, and that's like the foundation of that tactic of like every ad should communicate somewhat of that message. And and they go into running ads and they're like, why isn't this not working? Why can't, and I don't see results, but they haven't even nailed down their positioning before they even ran that $50,000, $100,000 ad. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I always say, like, it's funny. We live in an agoraphobic world, sort of post-pandemic, that nobody wants to go out and talk to people. But at the end of the day, if you're starting a new company and you don't have that value proposition or sort of that statement nailed down yet, the best thing to do is to go try to sell people face to face and tell them about your product or service and see how they react. Because then you can start to gauge, like, oh, that didn't work. Nobody gave a shit about what I was saying. You have to have EQ enough to like know that people aren't really paying attention, like that they're glazing over when you're talking. But that's how I came up with your outsourced CMO, was just talking to people about what I was doing and seeing enough negative reactions to then identify when someone was like actually intrigued by it and going, oh, there it is. That's what I need to talk about.
So I know this is like a touchy topic, but you said that, okay, it's 3 weeks to 3 months till a lot of people see a sale, but like most attribution models are like 1 day, 7 day, like 14 day, which goes against what you just said, that it takes like three months. So like, what is your advice to people, like when they set up like their tracking, their models, to make sure like they capture the actual sales?
Identify what your sales cycle is. Like, go actually look at what does it take. Don't just pull a number out of thin air because you think it's a best practice. Or frankly, the reason most tracking is 7 days now, it's because it's only what iOS allows to most of the platforms. They don't allow more than 7-day cookie windows. So that's why it's set at 7 days. You technologically can't, because Apple cut that off. So that's not because it's the best frame to look at. It's because that's what it's allowing. So you have to find other ways to track that, whether it's from the first point you collect an email address to when they convert, all sorts of other ways to track that. But you've got to build out better tracking than that, or you're going to cut off your nose to spite your face. Like, my favorite thing about people, like, again, it goes back to the same kind of ignorance with marketers where, and I blame marketers. I don't blame founders for this because they're not supposed to know this, but marketers are supposed to know this stuff, where when iOS 14 change happened and the tracking windows went from 28 days to 7, the idea that your Facebook performance went down versus just it went from 28 days to 7 is really fascinating to me. Like, yeah, there were some other nuances about the change that cut off certain strategies that maybe affected some companies from a performance standpoint. But most of the people that think their performance went down didn't have any performance drop at all. They just had a tracking problem and they never fixed it. So you ended up with all these companies that think that like consumer behavior changed on Facebook because they changed a cookie window. Like, no, it didn't. All that changed was your ability to track it, which again affects some deeper tactics that were being done. But at the end of the day, Facebook's still just as effective. We have tons of companies scaling like crazy. You just have to do a better job tracking and optimizing it.
So, what is your advice on that tracking part? So the 7 day window iOS doesn't allow. They dropped it from 28. Like, what are you seeing the best companies do that are track? Besides, I say they figured out their sales cycle is
Yep.
28 days or 31 days or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean, there's other tracking platforms like Glue. There's doing your own data tracking, just ways to track your conversions aside from just hoping that Facebook is tracking it. So it's building out your own, analytics. That's why we built Hawk AI too. Is then you can actually compare apples to apples of like how is everyone else doing on these platforms versus us. So are we outperforming the market? Because my view of it is like if you're already outperforming the market on these platforms and it's not working, you need to fix your business, not change your marketing strategy. Um, and so there's a lot of different ways to fix that tracking. Whether again, that's why we built Hawk AI, but there's also Glue. There's several other platforms that have tried to do this in different ways. There's what's the other one? There's Triple Whale and another one that Northbeam that have also tried. Nothing's perfect, but I think that's part of the that's why like we talked about this internally the other day. If I can have a platform that just tells me everything to do and it's just like this is the fact, like just change this and adjust this and fix this and this is how you run your business, then I guess I don't need a head of marketing. Like the whole reason we have someone in that position managing those platforms is someone needs to distill that information, look at it, and then make cogent decisions based on their experience and their knowledge base using that data. So none of this is perfect, but you can get a lot closer to at least solid indicators of how things are performing. Because again, the in dashboard in Facebook is not a great indicator anymore.
What is a growth tactic that you see over and over again that works long term, not only short term? So if I'm thinking like I want to have a long term play.
Yeah, I mean, the scalable, repeatable stuff is still the same that it has been for 15 years. It's Google and Meta ads, maybe TikTok now, then email and SMS now to complement it, and a great website, and then a consistent quality content coming out from your brand so that you're establishing who you are and creating more of a connection with your audience. That is the core playbook. From there, you expand off of it. You incorporate influencers, you incorporate other sorts of third-party validation to create more trust around it. But like those pipes that we kind of call them, of like those basics, are necessity these days to compete.
It's funny because I think marketers try to overcomplicate this process, but the way you're putting it is simple. Like one, come up with that positioning statement. Two, here are like pretty much the pipes that you need. Here's the top of funnel, here's middle funnel to keep retention of that list, build that list. You have to have a good product if you want to win. Otherwise, you probably have a product problem if some of these things are broken, or a messaging problem. Those are like the two things. What do you think AI is coming into the picture? What is the biggest change that is in this growth problem? I mean, not growth, like in a growth role.
Yeah, it's sadly it's anywhere you need an entry level employee or an intern at this point. It was intern until about 6 months ago. Now it's really taking the job of entry level employees. So data analytics work, like going and pulling data and aggregating it and putting it together in a report. Thought jogging. We use it as sort of like a not prompt in the AI sense, but like for us to be like, what are some good ideas we could do here? Like I love using AI as a little sidekick of like even stupid stuff, just as an example of like, what should I get my friend for his 40th birthday? Here are all the things he's interested in. It wasn't perfect. It didn't give me like the thing, but it gave me some ideas that was like, oh, that's cool. I could take that this way. Da, da, da. Like there's, and I use that as an example because it's the same thing in marketing where it's like, here's the brand, here's the things it's doing, here's the target audience, here's the value proposition, blah, blah, blah. What do you think some good headlines could be? And it's not going to give you the headlines that you just like copy paste, but it's like, oh, I like that direction. It's like, it's just a thought partner that it can be on the creative side. And on the like on the more execution driven side and the more logical side, it can replace a lot. I mean, we've turned it into our analytics and reporting dashboard. It can help do a lot of the data mining you needed to do to get to an answer quicker so that you can focus on kind of the highest and best use. Goes back to if you're not thinking critically and thinking about how do I then leverage this to do some creative things, there's no need for people anymore. You can just go automate the shit and call it a day. But in marketing, the challenge is to differentiate yourself, to stand out. And I don't mean that in a like scream as loud as you can, do the goofiest stunt that you can, but like how do you actually get people's attention and keep it? Because that's the only way you're going to survive in a day like today.
So you gave some of the pipes, and consistent content was one of the things you said. Like, what is your belief on like the organic side? Like how important is it now versus like it was like 10 years ago for brands to be
I think
playing in that field?
Yeah, so when we talk about organic social, I think it's more of a checkbox because they've done so much to throttle your ability to reach that other than YouTube Reels, or sorry, YouTube Shorts and somewhat Instagram Reels, though not really, and then TikTok, you really don't go viral anymore. That being said, I think as a brand, once you've captured your audience, so it's not a top of the funnel strategy. It's actually the best way to put it. It's a mid funnel strategy. You need to be a media destination for the people that are interested in your brand. That's how you continue to build trust, how you continue to keep them as a customer. That's how you build a solid foundation because they're not just going to buy shit from you every day. Like, and even if they are, that's very transactional. They need to really be engaged with who you are, what you're about, who you are as a company. And the way to do that is through consistent content. And I believe that with AI automating all the other performance shit and other automating, like, I'm not saying it's done now, but let's say in the next few years, a lot of the math equations that are done by people are going to be gone and all the optimization will be able to happen automatically. Then what really matters and how you differentiate will be your content and your sort of assets, your collateral that's being used and all that. And that's where I don't believe AI is going to replace for a very long time. I think it's going to be too duplicative and it's going to look a lot of the same because it's going to be taking the same thesis around all of this. And so I think that's where you can win. And that's where the differentiator comes in. And it's always, they've always said content is king. I just don't think anyone's ever explained that as to why. And to me, it's how do you engage people above and beyond a purchase decision so you keep them engaged with your brand. And by nature, they're going to buy more, they're going to do more. That's going to be part of their engagement.
So, I mean, you said something interesting, like AI is going to get really good at, and it's already getting really good at like telling you where to put your money, like optimizing, like things that used to be like the advantage probably 5-10 years ago of like targeting, where should I put my money? AI could do now.
Yeah.
The question I have is like, what's the best way to win in the creative like space? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, what is your recommendation for like how much budget should be dedicated to just like making great creative versus spending on these platforms?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one to answer because I don't think great creative doesn't necessarily need to be high budget. The best
Mm-hmm.
creative out there sometimes is not expensive. So budget wise, that's a really hard one to answer just generically off the
Mm-hmm.
cuff. I always say you should take about 10% of your budget and be investing in more high risk, high reward marketing, like going
Mm-hmm.
viral kind of stuff, stunts, things that are not necessarily scalable but could give you a sugar rush, while 90% goes to that scalable, repeatable side. So that part I can answer. But in terms of content, how do you create great content? I mean, that's the challenge. That's where being a good marketer is important. There isn't a straight answer to that. It's what really understanding the customer and what's going to compel them to want to engage in your business more. And what are they looking for? And one of my favorite things, sort of the lens to put things through, is what is the value proposition of your business and how do you create content that also serves that value? So you reinforce the fact that you're the destination to serve that value. So easy example, if you're a running shoe company and people are, buying my running shoes because they want to get out and go running and get in shape, I should be giving them all sorts of tips on how to go out and go run and how to get in shape. Like, just how do I serve that value proposition with content as much as I am with my product?
It's the thing that I like is like you're distilling this stuff as like a simple, like people should just like they over everything you're saying is like is overthought by so many marketers. Like
Yep.
we just get confused on tools, like uh, disrupted by all the shiny new tools out there. But
Yep.
really, like if you have these fundamentals down, you you can easily win. Where do you
Totally.
what levers do you normally see? So like from the conversion part, what are like the most like easiest way to like lift those like conversion levers? Like where do you see the most problems that people have when like converting
Yeah,
off of an ad to like getting an email sign up
I'd say
or
that's it. It's just email marketing. You'd be amazed how many companies still don't just build out a quality email funnel. Like, and then on top of that, SMS, those two. Like, and then content is the next checkbox, so to speak. Site optimization, once you have something to optimize, you have to have enough traffic to make sense that it's worth the time and effort to actually optimize. And those are the things. I mean, again, I think that is sort of our ethos. And I think the problem with the marketing world is it's not that complicated. It shouldn't be. It is actually pretty straightforward. It's all based on human psychology and human behavior. And unless you're personally a really awkward or different human being, generally you can kind of get the vibe of like, yeah, how do people reach me and get me interested in something? If I see an ad for something, do I really buy it every time right away? Like I just bought a pair of running shoes, or not running shoes, but like sneakers from On, which I've been seeing their brand everywhere for a few years before I went to a site and was like looking for a pair of something that fit, and I wanted a certain color sneaker, and I was like, oh, On. Yeah, I've heard they're good because I had friends that have it. I've seen ads for it. I've seen content about them. I've seen runners running in them, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, time to try these out. But it took 2 years for me to buy a pair of shoes there. Whereas if they were running their Facebook ads, they would have thought, if they served me an ad, it would have been a complete failure on the spreadsheet.
What is your definition of like how to build the brand side of the picture? Like, because a lot of the stuff they do great brand plays. Like, what should people going to consider besides like these like Facebook, Google? Like, I mean, you could do brand plays on those channels too, but what are some brand moves that people should think to invest long term?
Brand to me is just synonymous with trust. Like that's what that means. Is early on in a business, it's about third-party validation. So it's getting PR, it's influencers, it's celebrity endorsements, it's testimonials, reviews. And then, frankly, content really plays into brand too, because it's allowing me to understand what you're about as a company. And originally, the third-party side is you borrowing trust from other parties to kind of lend to your brand because nobody trusts you yet. And then really the biggest thing is just consistency. What do you talk about and what are you consistent about that starts to become synonymous with your brand? Whether it's Zappos and delivering happiness and being the best at customer service, or it's McDonald's and being synonymous with the obesity crisis. Like there's a lot of different things that play into branding, good and bad, but it usually ends up what you either talk about the most and deliver the most of, or what other people accuse you of or talk about you the most too. Again, good or bad. It's also like, I do this all the time as a fun, like I do a lot of public speaking about this. And I always ask the crowd, like, anyone want to shout out who's the worst at customer service? And it is, I'd say 98% of the time, a cell phone company or a cable company, one or the other. Because it's just like, that's what people have gotten used to. Now, part of that is probably not fair. Like, I'm sure they're not as bad as we all make them out to be. But at this point, their reputation and their consistently poor delivery has made it so that anyone that thinks about bad customer service thinks about cell phone or cable. So going back to like, how do you win in an age like this? Imagine a cell phone or cable company that was like, we're going to be the best at customer service, and how much business they could get because everyone fucking hates them.
Yeah, it's always the industries that are like hard to penetrate, that like airlines too, where it's like they can get away with these like little things where like the easy entries, like if you have bad customer service, like you're gonna get screwed because you're used to it. You see a lot of brands come to you. Like, what is like the biggest thing they're doing wrong when they come to Hawke Media? Like like you see it, you diagnose it. Like, what is the problem that you usually see over and over again?
Yeah. Number one is not doing anything to nurture their customers. So we talk about, and I've kind of alluded, not beat around this bush, but we, have a best-selling book that's taught at Columbia, NYU, University of Arizona called The Hawke Method. And it breaks down marketing into 3 principles: awareness, nurturing, and trust. And so that, again, going back to the idea of simplifying this, that's the 3 pillars you have to think about. So awareness, how do you introduce your product or service to a new potential customer? How do you get out there? So step 1, I see a lot of people not doing anything to attract new potential customers. So they get really focused on their existing base, their existing list. It's expensive to create awareness. And so they double down and they can't figure out why they're not getting growth. And it's because your customers, no matter how hard you push, are going to leave you at some point. And I always use like, there's the morbid example, like they're going to die at some point. Like if you want to take out every other thing, like they're moving, they found a new brand they like, they changed lifestyles, whatever, at the end of the day, you're going to lose customers, period. Not even a question. So you have to be bringing in new customers all the time to even sustain, let alone grow. Has to happen. And then nurturing, back to that sales cycle, what do you do from the time that someone becomes aware you exist to actually get them to buy? If you're not doing email, you're not doing SMS, you're not creating content, you're not going to convert that awareness at the same rate. And awareness is expensive. So you're also competing with everyone else willing to pay for those eyeballs and doing the things to grab those eyeballs. And if you're not, once you gain those eyeballs, you're not doing everything with them to get them to become a customer and stay a customer, again, you're going to have a hard time competing. And then the last piece, back to trust or brand, That 75% of people won't buy from a company they don't trust. So you have to do things to create trust. Again, early on, third-party validation, and then over time, just be consistent with your message and be consistent in building that so that people see you around and start to believe. And that's just human nature. Back to it. None of that's really, you can't really shortcut any of that. The only sort of shortcuts I've seen is trust is a funny thing. There's actually a little side note, and I've told this story a lot, but you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah. So, when Barney would always try to introduce Ted to girls and you just go, "Hey, have you met Ted?" And they'd be like, and for the audience, they don't know who Barney is. Barney's this Ted's friend. Ted's trying to meet a girl. Barney's just trying to help him. And so he just walks up to random girls and goes, "Hey, have you met Ted?" And every time the girl would be like, "No, hi, Ted." And Barney would just walk away. I talked about this for years, is like, that third-party validation doesn't necessarily need to become from a trusted source. People just gravitate towards someone that has a validator. That the fact that they know another person is enough of a validator, and that works with brands too. If you're recommended by someone, even if I don't know who that recommendation is, who that person is, it still creates that. And so back to that story, what's fun is I told this for years, and then a couple of years ago, I ended up sitting in a lunch across the table from the showrunner for How I Met Your Mother. And I told her that I had talked about this and talked to her about it. And she's like, "Oh yeah, we used to go out all the time after filming and do that in bars, and it worked every time." Like, just that opener of like, "Hey, have you met this person?" Or "You should check this out." And so even when you're thinking about your own marketing, like, getting someone else to talk about you goes really far, even if people don't know who that person is.
Yeah. And so basically breaking down something, it's like one of those three buckets. They're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, back to that. Exactly. Someone's missing something there. And that's where that framework came from. It was years of me analyzing businesses and looking for where the holes were, and started to realize they really fell into three buckets. It was either they weren't creating any new top of the funnel, they weren't nurturing that top of the funnel, or they weren't creating any trust. And it was over and over and over again. It was one or two of those things they were missing. And so then I started to talk about it a lot. I started doing some public speaking, and that's what turned into the book.
And I think going even back, like some of the so-and-so best marketers just have like the best product and they're winning. Like some of the people I see talk, like if like you could put like 10 marketers in their shoe and they probably would do exactly the same thing as they do, because because the product is great. And then you put that same marketer in a crappy product and they're not going to scale it. So like having a product, like how do you, like if a marketer comes to you and they come and you right away see their product is crap. Like how do you tell a marketer to like go back to that founder and say, "Hey, like this is like," that's like the hardest part as a marketer, to like go back to the founder.
We won't say the product is crap, because I've been proven wrong way too many times. It's not. By the way, I have no problem being direct with someone and being like, "Nobody wants your product." I'll say that. I won't say your product's crap, but I'll be like, "No one wants your product." So if we go and do everything right and no one's buying, that is the conversation. Like and we can look at it like, if the ads are working, so like the value proposition, so there's a lot of different ways you can see where it's failing. Let's say the ads are working, people are clicking them, they're going to the site, and we're doing all the right email marketing and everything, and they're just not converting. Though sometimes the answer is people just don't want your shit. Like they were interested and intrigued, and then nobody's actually compelled to buy it. It's not a marketing problem always. It's sometimes like, there isn't a market for your product. Nobody actually wants this. Or have we not built enough trust? And that's where like us as an agency, it's nice to come in, is we can tell you, here are all the metrics we're looking at. Like the problem is you're getting all the traffic at the right expense, but it's not converting. And we're doing all the things we normally do that build the trust and do all the, and nurture these things that should be working. It might just be the product. And so those are things that you struggle with especially when it's early on and you haven't had product market fit. Once you have product market fit and you see that things are, able to work, then it's just about finding the right early adopters to start buying the thing. But early on, that is what startups are about. You got to go see if there's actually a product market fit for what you're doing. And so again, I wouldn't call it a shitty product, because there's products that, again, I'm blown away anybody wanted to buy, but did really well. And so it's more just finding, is there a market for your product? And are there people that will value this? And that's hard in the beginning. That's, one of the most challenging parts of being a marketer, is differentiating between, are we doing the right things from a marketing standpoint? And is the product being well received?
I want to go back to one thing you said, that, you have Hawke AI, benchmarking. Like what is the best way for a marketing leader to benchmark so they can give like that data back to their founders or someone? Because I think a lot of the times I see what happens is they don't have a market comes in, they didn't have marketing before, they blow the numbers out the water. The next year they give an unreasonable target because they saw something, like they had a great first year, and then they don't hit the numbers, they get fired. That's just like a simple example. It's not everybody, but like I've seen that like at a couple of companies that I've like been a part of.
It's common. I mean, the life cycle of marketers is really low because I think people don't understand this stuff. I mean, to give you a quick answer without it, trying to be a pitch, is that's why we built Hawke AI. Like that has all the benchmarks. I don't know another platform that gives the benchmarks so freely that allows people to actually see this is how we're performing compared to the market. That's why we built it originally.
And like, how would you suggest like people create their like dashboards around it? So they say like, okay, here's like the average like click-through rate, or the average CAC, or the average like ROAS for this industry.
Yeah, and you look at where you can look by industry, and then you look at where you stand. And then again, this is where you have to be an intelligent human being and go, well, what does this mean? Like if my click-through rate is on these ads or on all of my ads average 20% lower than the market, is it that we're targeting the wrong people? Is it that we're not doing the best advertising? Or is it that less people are going to be interested in this than the average company, but that's okay because they convert at a higher rate? Like you can't just take this in a vacuum and be like, oh, we're below on this benchmark, like we're fucked. Like you have to actually take that and then extrapolate curiously, what does that actually mean? And then is there something to solve there? Because a lot of times knowing where you stand on the benchmarks doesn't necessarily create an action plan. Because like, again, let's say your ads have a 20% higher than market conversion rate. Does that mean that you've nailed it out of the park with your creative? Or does it mean that you've just got a way more interesting product that people want? Have you timed the market so well that you've got, lightning in a bottle and you should dump more money into it, which generally is the answer. It's like if you're seeing way more action than anybody else is, it sounds like it's time to, grab the bull by the horns and go and try to grow your business, and strike while the iron's hot. A lot of cliches there, but that is what this creates, is just that other view. Because what we deal with is similar to what you just said. I knock it out of the park last year, and now maybe my performance is down 10% year over year. So like I had I was getting 8 times my money last year on my advertising. Now I'm getting 7 times. Did I do something wrong? Did the market change? Did the click-through rates change? Like knowing all those helps you make better decisions, but you still got to have critical thinking and think it through.
And like things like, for example, market changing, for example, you said, I mean, we talked about at the beginning that the 3 to 6 months window. So do you think a lot of problems happen where, okay, founders or someone gets freaked out that like the economy is going to go down, they stop spending a little bit, they wonder why, like when they start picking up back spending right now, they're not getting results, but really like those tail end conversions are like trickling off because they pulled back advertising and pulled back all that stuff. Like I see that all the time where like, and you also losing all that brand awareness that you built up for doing advertising for 6 months too. So it's just a kind of a death loop a little bit to kind of, it will take you 3 to 6 more months to ramp up again if you just pull back so fast when the economy is bad, unless your business is going down. That's obviously.
Yep.
Last question I have for you is, what is a marketing hill you would die on?
Marketing hill I would die on. I mean, I would literally what I said about the basics of marketing. I mean, I know that is as true can be. So probably the Hawke method. I would say, without being that morbid, I pretty much I'm putting my life's work into it. So I am dying on it.
Which I like is like the method doesn't necessarily say like right now, like you said, Google, Meta, maybe TikTok is maybe the best like awareness play, or
figuring out where to do those things is a whole different conversation, but those principles hold true. And the book does talk about the individual tactics of like what channels live in what and why, and like why you would pick Google over Meta, over TikTok, over Snapchat or whatever. That's a different conversation, but overall, I don't think that'll ever change of like, getting customers, nurturing customers, building trust. is going to ever change.
Yeah, that's the point I was making. I was like, those channels are going to change in each bucket that you just said. Like they might, or they probably not for a while with some of these channels, but like it's just like knowing once you know these are the ways to do things, then you figure out the best way to execute the awareness, the consideration phase, and all the three phases that you said. Where can people find you and what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, @Erik Huberman on any social channel or hawkemedia.com. Super easy to find.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Absolutely, man. Talk soon.